Okay, here is the title of my talk. You can hear me.
Yeah.
That's great. And firstly, I would like to thank the organizers for organizing such an inspiring, wonderful conference in these difficult times. I'm going to talk about the Ainu language, which is spoken in northern Japan and used to be spoken in the Sakhalin island of Russia, in the Kuril Islands. And this is the primarily division of Ainu dialects. As you can see, they are divided into Hokkaido, Sakhalin, and Kuril groups of dialects. Ainu is a language isolate, and it's moribund, almost extinct. And I've been working on Hokkaido dialects of Ainu, which are divided into southwestern and northeastern dialects. And my data comes primarily from Hokkaido dialects of Saro and Chitose. They are southwestern dialects, my own field work, and some previous documentation. It's a very well documented language. It's very well documented by Japanese and non-Japanese researchers. And recently we have released a glossed audio corpus of Ainu folklore. It's more than 50,000 Ainu words, so you're really invited to have a look at it. It enables like grammatical search. For instance, if you are doing research on reciprocals or say some other verbal category, so it's possible to search for labels there as well. Okay, so here is a typological profile of Ainu. It's agglutinating, incorporating, and polysynthetic. It's SOV and head marking. I think it's very important that it's head marking because it's surrounded by dependent marking languages only. And for my opinion, it's why it's so strikingly different from all surrounding Northeast Asian languages. So no cases for arguments, postpositions are marked mark adjuncts. So pronouns are usually omitted, and the verb is marked for the person and number of the subject and object, and third person is 0. There is also this tricky label, fourth person, which is just a common label for first person plural inclusive, second person honorific, first person in oral literature or logophoric, or the person of the protagonist in folk tales. So you'll see a lot of this fourth person, which is translated in all kinds of ways. Alignment is mixed. It's nominative, accusative, neutral, tripartite, and even hierarchical. There is verbal plurality. The opposition of intransitive and transitive verbs is clear-cut, but intransitive verbs, interestingly, can function as nouns. Okay. And there is an extensive voice system, applicative, causative, antipassive, reflexive, reciprocal, anti-causative verbal affixes, a four-term evidentiality system, a spectral model markers, but no pure tense markers. And there are no non-finite verbal forms, no participles, no converbs. And there are possessibility oppositions and nouns. Okay, so borderline case marking, the definition by Igison. So it means that arguments are unmarked for case, that there is only overt marking for concrete or peripheral case relations, and that delimiting case markers from other morphological functional entities is really difficult, that they are indistinguishable or almost indistinguishable from other word classes. So I'm going to show what it means for Ainu. Arguments are unmarked for case. Just as an example one, I have a Japanese short-sleeved kimono. You see two arguments, the subject and object, kani and kosonte. So both are unmarked for cases, so bare nominals. The second example is the same. So you have ragged, wedded clothing. So, and also unmarked for cases, but the subject, of course, as in the first example, is marked, the verb is marked for the person and number of the subject, so ku and e respectively. Example 3, my elder brother hit me. Here, subject is third person, so no subject marking and 0 marking, and object marking is on the verb. And nominals are, NPs are unmarked. Okay, example 4 is probably even more natural because we have no pronouns here. We have no pronouns here. All right. You can see two markers, two verbal markers on the verb. Or as in example 5, you can see one marker for the first person subject and second person object. This is hierarchical alignment. That's why it looks a bit tricky there. So not using pronominal NPs is quite common. They are normally omitted unless you need them for emphasis or to introduce in discourse new participants. Okay. And there is no closed class of cases as we have in Russian. So they don't enter into paradigmatic relations. So I came up with a list of 12 cases in the Saru dialect of Ainu, and they also vary across dialects. So really trying hard, I came with this list of 12 case markers in the Saru dialect of Ainu. Okay, they are divided into postpositional particles and postpositional adverbs. Postpositional particles are more case-like in our terms from European point of view. So locative ta, locative elative un, ablative va, transversal pk, and mutative ne. And postpositional adverbs are like commutative turano and degree pakno, and instrumental ani, dative eun, translative turashi. And then it's kind of endless. It can be going along the river, going upside the river, and you don't know where to say stop. Okay, that's how it looks like. So, and what's particularly different about postpositional adverbs is that they can stand alone. Let's look at example 6a. Okay, since she told her father and relatives. So here we can see father, NP, with an associative plural marker. So father, plural, father and relatives, and the dative marker, eun. And it looks perfectly fine, right? Something we're quite used to say in Japanese and many other languages. Okay, but let's look at example 6b. It's better not to say anything to mother. Okay, you see there is no mother. There is just to, okay? It's better not to say anything to. So it's a standing alone case marker, which looks very strange, really, from our European point of view. And well, in fact, it originates in the transitive verb eun, to be at, to stick to, right? And the degree of grammaticalization is quite shallow, okay? On the other hand, of course, it's like a verb and an adverb there originally. But you can't say synchronically that 6b is a verb because there is no conjunctive particle. There is no conjunction between eun and itak, the next predicate, okay? That's why it's a kind of case marker. Okay, the same in example 7, instrumental marker 7a looks normal. We would make sake from what the woman has grown. And right, so women make things. Okay, this is an NP, buy, okay, instrumental marker, and that's fine. While in 7b, I will build a new house with that. Okay, you have just with, build a new house. I will build a new house, okay? And the marker ani, instrumental marker, it originates in the verb to hold. So originally it was like holding that, I will build a house, like that. Again, there is no conjunctive particle here, so synchronically it cannot be analyzed as a verb, as a transitive verb, but it's kind of in between. Okay, also postposition adverbs can inflect. Many of them can inflect for the subject or for the object, depending on a particular item. So like in 8a, we have by the will of the gods, thanks to the gods, Renkaine, and 8b, I came because I wanted to. So by my own intention or convenience, as Tamura mentions. So ku, first person subject marker, verbal marker, is on the so-called case particle, or whatever you call it. Okay, some postpositional adverbs take object markers, okay, as 9a, the water race to the middle of the sea, so middle of the sea till, and 9b, there is no person as fast as me, okay, till me, that's what you have here, till me, and the object marker, you see. And then in example 10, I live together with you, so and this is a commutative marker, tura, so following you, literally I lived, so it also originates in the verb. Okay, in terms of Nichols, these are postpositional adverbs in Ainu are inflected at positions, which is what we expect of the head marking language type. So apparently in head marking languages, this is not surprising that postpositions can inflect, can take indexation for the subject or object. Okay, then I will turn to postpositional particles like locative ta, locative relative un, and so on. And on the first glance, they show more case-like behavior because they cannot stand alone and they cannot inflect. Okay, but there are some interesting peculiarities about them as well. So this is like a side note, actually, because it's not directly related to borderline head marking, but it's something interesting about them, okay? So let me explain a few things. In locative expressions, they require a noun phrase to be the so-called location. So that is a locative noun of category 2, like mountains, beach, ocean, and so on and so forth, or an ordinary noun combined with a locative noun of category 1. Of course, it's all especially opaque, so you will see the examples. 11.1, okay, so after I have butchered the catch in the mountains, right, this mountains is a locative noun of category 2. So it does not require any other locative noun of category 1. So it can take the locative marker as it is. So kimta, or let's go to my house, you see? Auni un attaches directly to the noun. So such nouns are few. Basically, I've listed many of them here in the previous slide. So like mountains, shore, water, home, high place, low place, and so on. And most nouns are the so-called ordinary nouns. So to attach the locative case, they require the word place here. So I helped by carrying it on my back to the porch, literally to the place of the porch. Okay, so sem oro here. And or some locative noun of category 1, a concrete one. So my uncle, who was sitting near the hearth, politely greeted me. So fire near to. So what you cannot say is sem un, you cannot say it because it's an ordinary noun, it has no inherent meaning of location, or apeta, you can't say that. Okay, so let's move on. And why is this necessary in Ainu? So why does location matter in Ainu? If both the subject and the object are third person, cases which are difficult to identify do arise. So marking one of the arguments as location helps to track grammatical relations, according to Nakagawa. For example, in example 15, right? When we finish eating, put poison in his food. So food is marked as location, where you put things, okay, with this autoplace. And poison is not marked as location. So it can somehow facilitates the interpretation we have here, not put food in his poison. Okay, so it's quite handy. Also, why does location matter cross-linguistically? So it shows that some nouns have valence and some do not. So if the noun has valence, we cannot call it head marking because it's not overt, but valence in nouns and elaboration of valence types is mainly a head marking trait, as I think. And well, Nichols advised me on this. Okay, that's it about cases. But now I'm going to talk about conjoining two nouns. So like in Russian, you say chai s limoном, or so tea with lemon, or and so on. To conjoin two nouns, you also use case particles. And that is impossible in Ainu. So in Ainu, you cannot say a man from Sapporo just by using a case particle, ablative particle I've mentioned. So for this purpose, you use various verbs, transitive verbs, transitive existential verbs, like locative, locative un. For locative relations, you use un, live at. Properative, you use ush, attached to, or be located inside of, ought, be in abundance. Privative, yeah, like you have a very interesting carative construction in your institute, so that's the case. You have sak, the transitive verb, to express this carative or privative meaning, without, or membership, ne, and so on. So a man from Ishkari, you generally say an Ishkari living man with a transitive clause, so you don't use case particles there. So water goddess, water attached goddess, and a storehouse with dry fish entered pot, or sorry, a storehouse, should be storehouse there. Okay, and that village chief having or ruling, rich man, as you see, so relative clauses. So at the initial stage of writing this presentation, submitting an abstract, I was thinking that inability of Ainu case markers to form nominal phrases is another manifestation of the exclusively borderline case marking. But then in the summer, I had a discussion with Peter Arkadiev, and he suggested that it's probably a separate parameter, right? Maybe it's not directly related to borderline head marking, to borderline case marking. So I'm kind of hesitating. So really looking forward to your feedback. Okay, and then a few words about applicatives as head marking case, as a head marking case strategy. So Ainu has 3 applicative markers, and in Tamura they are referred to as prefixes that express case relations. Applicatives could have been a preferred case marking strategy in the past, especially given the innovative and under-grammaticalized nature of most Ainu case markers. So, and applicatives facilitate noun incorporation because no adjunct can be incorporated into the verb as such, as in Chukchi we say. We know that, but in order to be incorporated, it should be first promoted to the direct object by an applicative prefix. Okay, just a few examples of applicatives very briefly. So example 20a is a normal case marker. So I sent the spirits in the mountains and only brought back the meat on the bones, meat, kamihi patek, only meat, with bones, bones with. So there is no applicative there. Okay, and what you can do is in 20b you can promote the one of the objects to the direct object, so a double object construction. I carried the food and I had left in the mountains with the meat. Okay, both food and meat are food with meat. Okay, both are direct object. It's a double object construction. So, and you use co-applicative for this. So there are three applicative markers. I tentatively call a marker an instrumental marker, co a dative marker, and or a locative marker, but they can express so many different semantic roles, you see. So, and this is probably not an exhaustive list, right? And applicatives are allowed with all kinds of verbs, almost even with accusative verbs, which is very rare cross-linguistically, according to Baker. And right, so another important role of applicatives, as I said, is incorporating adjuncts. So you can't incorporate adjuncts directly as in Chukchi. You first have to promote them to the direct object and then incorporate. So we waited for it to get dark, and in the evening we went down to the village. Okay, village 2. Oh, this is an elative marker, elative applicative, and you incorporate village as the direct object. We spent the night midway and left again the next morning. So at midway. Literally locative here, right? Locative applicative. And the last one is a kind of dative marker, dative applicative. The elder gave the meat to the kamui here and there and prayed to gods about it. So this core applicative is takes kamui, God, pray to, talk to, so a dative marker. And as you see, there is also another applicative which takes an external object here, right? So two applicative markers, and they are very handy. Okay, concluding remarks. So Ainu shows the exclusively borderline case marking, which means that arguments are unmarked for case. Only peripheral cases are case marked. And case markers are almost indistinguishable from other word classes because postpositional adverbs can stand alone and inflect just like verbs. We've seen that with instrumental and dative markers. And there is no closed set of cases in Ainu. They are roughly divided into postpositional adverbs and postpositional particles. And none of them can form adnominal phrases. A relative clause-like structure with existential transitive verbs is used instead. That's what we have seen with a carative marker, right? A transitive verb is used. Applicatives are a head marking alternative to case markers in Ainu. That's what I would like to emphasize. And my general guess, hypothesis is that borderline case marking may correlate with the head marking language type. Okay, that's it. Yaira Kere, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anya, for your most exciting talk. And we have 6 minutes for questions. You're welcome. Any questions or comments? Thinking. So questions.
I can send my presentation to the chat if you wish.
Yeah, that would be nice. I think, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Maybe it would be easier to ask questions.
I'm sorry, Peter Arkadiev has a question. He raised his hand.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Thank you very much for such an interesting talk. And well, it's actually a comment regarding your regarding your point that applicatives can, so to say, substitute for case markers. Well, on the one hand, yes. On the other hand, I would, in such a case, I would, I'm sorry, I have troubles formulating my idea. Well, it would be probably more convincing if it were a language like Abaza, for instance, well, Abkhaz, Abaza, and other Northwest Caucasian languages, where there are plenty of applicatives, and many of which are really very semantically specialized. So you can really say there is an instrumental applicative in Abaza, which actually sometimes can serve as is homophonous with the instrumental case marker, and there are many locative applicatives in Abaza, and there is a benefactive applicative and a manufactive, etc., etc. So one can say that they indeed serve as markers of semantic relations between the predicate and its peripheral arguments, and sometimes even not peripheral. However, in languages like Ainu or Bantu, where applicatives have been studied extensively, and where there is also no cases, but where there is the very few applicative markers, and they are semantically quite general. Then
is three few? Is three few?
Well, I think if a language has just 3 cases, we say that it is a poor case system. It is not a. It is below the mean number of cases most case languages have. 5, 6, 8 is enough, so to say. But 3 is apparently too few. Anyway, it is. Probably applicatives in languages that have few applicatives serve some function distinct from that of case markers. Even if these functions overlap to a certain extent, they are certainly not identical. But this is just an idea. I may be wrong. Thank you very much anyway.
Thank you, Peter. Ainu, would you like to respond somehow?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I fully agree.
We have 1 minute.
Okay, I fully agree with this, but why are Ainu cases so strong, so strange, so under-grammaticalized then? So young cases, basically. So many of them look like verbs. So.
Well, but this is a very different question. We don't know.
Not all of them. Not all of them, though. Locative cases are pretty strong cases, but many, like instrumental, as I've shown, or commutative, they are very, very shallow. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll think about it.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a very interesting discussion. So any more questions we have? No, we don't have time for questions anymore. Thank you so much, Anya. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.